Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mendaris. And before I commence, I'd like to express great appreciation to His Excellency Gibson for his presentation, because in highlighting the essence of the ICJ, it rather shines light on the importance of controlling or minimizing border conflict. The fact remains is that whether we vote yes or no, those Guatemalans along the border will remain, and they will be a significant problem to us in the future. The disclaimer, of course, whatever is presented is my opinion, my conclusions, and do not represent or reflect anything of the Government of Belize, the BDF, or the ministry. However, I want to inform you that this research was initially done for mere academic purposes. However, the presentation had to be altered a bit or toned down due to recent developments. The outline of the presentation is as followed. Intro. Now, looking at the image, we would like to characterize the security environment along the border. Some may say it's complicated, some may say it's complex. I beg to differ, it's rather wicked. Whenever it involves dealing with the human element, particularly a people who are struggling for their mere survival, and the only means or measures that a nation uses to repel that is its military, it becomes volatile, and therefore it escalates from being complicated to actual wicked. Looking at it, what propels or what motivates those persons across the border to enter freely into our space is the fact that when they look east, they see a supermarket. There's no cashier, no security, no storekeeper. So they simply enter and exit as they wish, and they conduct business as they wish. Moreover, we need to understand that prior to colonialism, these people were there long ago, and they were moving freely. And we have to accept that in order for us to develop a comprehensive or multifaceted plan to address this issue. As I said, there's a limited security presence. And let us talk about the Chikibul alone. It's vast. However, within the immediate area, we have almost 53,000 inhabitants on the Guatemalan side. I dare to say how many security forces are within the area from Xunantunich all the way down to Cadenas. It is totally inadequate, and however, these Guatemalans know the areas better than the security forces. Let's be honest. What we also find is the persistent aggression, the inspiration behind these aggression. Some may say it's just those campesinos who are idle coming over. It may be more strategic than that. And sadly, we find ourselves encountering these individuals on a daily basis. So I term the phrase, thanks to cartoons, Tom, Jerry, and Spike effect. The mouse harasses the cat captures the rat, and in turn the rat runs to the big dog who pummels the poor cat. That's the reality. And until we address the relationship between the rat and the cat, Spike will always beat on poor Tom. Now, the human security of these individuals are also important. According to Maureen Taft, in her congressional report, she notes that a large percentage of Guatemalans, indigenous people, are poor. 90% are found in rural areas. And if you analyze that, a large percentage of those indigenous people live along the Belize-Guatemalan border. So it is no longer a problem for the state of Guatemala, but it's a problem for whom? Belize. What also complicates the matter is our commercial appreciation of our natural resources. And I take heed from FCD, where FCD, in its last report, highlighted that the worth of the Chicky Bull was approximately 343 billion Belize dollars, and some say with a B. And from 2012 to 2015, the loss due to illegal activities was 61.2 million Belize dollars. The mere fact that we're quantifying it, talking about it in commercial value, you're reading the eyes not precisely of those poor indigenous, but the large cattle ranchers and all the farmers who own most of the land in Guatemala. And it's through the survival of the campesinos that they advance their agenda. So the important question has to surround security. And in this case, we look at what is the customary or conventional means of security, which is often defined as the act of guaranteeing or eliminating a threat using diplomacy or your military, to the new approach, which not only says that security involves your military, your diplomacy, but it also involves acts of assurances. And we find out human security, therefore, services. According to Britannica, human security is an approach to national and international security that places humans and their complex social and economic interactions before the state. Simply saying, the more resilient a people are, the more they will fight to protect the state. UNDP, on the other hand, asserts that human security is a people's freedom from fear and freedom from want. And that is based on 7 principles: economic freedom, political freedom, community, health, environmental, food, and personal. However, we need to understand that where there's human security, there's always state sovereignty. And Globalization 101 notes that the concept of state sovereignty is that all states have control or total control of all the people and property within their territory. So in understanding that, there's kind of like a clash. Because human security is saying, no, people first, state later. State sovereignty is saying, no, state first, people after. And the question always asked is, does human security challenge state sovereignty? Some say yes. I beg to differ. I beg to say they should complement each other. There should be some compromise where we use the resilience of a people in order to guarantee total state sovereignty. And within that, the term legitimacy surfaces. And legitimacy, used within domestic politics, is the popular acceptance of a government, a political regime, or a system of governance. And there are 2 types of legitimacy. The first is horizontal, which is the relationship people share with their environment or their communities. And the other is vertical, the strength or the estimated strength between communities and political institutions. So it is simply saying, if a people are content, if they're happy, the more likely they will respect the political directorate. The minute any element of their security is challenged, they will tend to turn away from the political structure. And if we look at our current situation, it is slowly happening where people would tend, and if we look particularly and apply this within urban areas, people who live in certain communities feel safer within that community than when the 5-0 enters. And we have to come to terms with that. So recommendation. We need to understand the indigenous land appreciation. What does that mean? It is saying that our indigenous brothers and sisters equate that they are the best guardians of natural resources. And studies have proven to an extent it is truth. That the special relationship they share with their land, they would do everything in their power to protect those resources. And as a consequence, that kind of limits the amount of effort the state will have to put within that community. But also, because the state, in Machiavellian words, the state must maintain control, the state has to forge a partnership with our indigenous brothers and sisters so that a classical system is working along with our contemporary system. It is not one feeling superior than the other. Because the minute we have that, we have conflict. And nobody wins. And sadly, our neighbors are just waiting to exploit that division. And as we look at certain issues as well, we find that we have extremes. Extremes with the contemporary system or current system, where you have some proponents that feel that the indigenous people, their assertions are ultra-nationalistic, and we should never allow a minority population to dictate to us what we should do. And there are those indigenous people who are extreme that also feel that the state has no bearing on Mayan land. But the fact remains that we're all Belizeans, and we need to form a compromise in order for us to move forward. The application of the iron block, think about it, a solid defense mechanism. However, this defense mechanism is rooted in the appreciation of land through the indigenous way, whereby we see not the commercial value of land, but the subsistent value. That relationship where I will get from the land what I need, but in turn, I will give back to it. Sadly, our current system looks only at what we can get from it without giving the land time to replenish. So, we have a problem. Chikbul alone. We're not talking yet about Columbia River Forest or Machacaliha or even Rio Blanco or Vaca, wherever. We're just focusing on Chikbul. There's a significant problem. And those indigenous persons, we call them Campesinos, but don't forget they're Maya, period, or they're indigenous. They're not Castilian. Remember the colonial borders separated families, and nothing will stop a nation of people from uniting. That won't happen. However, there are three possible options. Indigenous focus. The government can simply say, you know what? Within our collaboration, we're going to allow our indigenous brothers to simply assume all control of those lands and deal with those, or administer those lands using their customary way of life, where it's communal, no one person owns. Or we can integrate the campesinos. They live there, formulate a mechanism where they can come over and work. I'm sure we won't even look at that, but that's a reality. They live there, we are not there. Or a hybrid. A hybrid where, and I heard some persons on the radio talking, what about those retired soldiers and retired police officers sent along the border to live? Let them farm. We're not going there. Trust me, we're not. It's a reality, we were not. But the fact remains is that there is some international corporation that looks after the welfare of these individuals. And ladies and gentlemen, if we change or tamper the manner in which we treat our natural resources and not look at the dollar value, but harness through the international community, we have Friends for Conservation that is doing a wonderful job within the area, for us to limit how far we allow our brothers and sisters across the border, I know get in trouble for that, how far they can go, but limit their activities to looking solely at how they can use the resources for their subsistent value. If you need to plant corn, plant beans, that is it. But no extraction of gold, extraction of minerals. And lastly, the judicial principle. David Galula is a famous expert in counterterrorism, particularly counterinsurgency warfare. And he developed the judicial principle. It's simply saying, use the strengths of your enemy for your benefit. Now, I don't want to call anybody my enemy, because they're just poor people. But the fact remains, ladies and gentlemen, that our resources will continue to be plundered if we cannot formulate a significant plan to keep them out, or not so much as out, but limit how far they can come in, because they are already there. These communities are right next to our border. The minute we turn, they're in there. We can't get them out. They won't leave. As a matter of fact, I need to impress on the fact that they have been there before Peter Wallace and his crew came here. They have been there. We don't want to appreciate it. Many of us who are Comia, which I am, my ancestors, sorry, Comia, we have to first acknowledge the fact that our indigenous brothers and sisters roamed this entire kingdom long before Christopher Columbus, I almost said Columbuses, Christopher Columbus even thought about leaving. That's a reality. And we can curtail on the aggression, on the expansion, if we simply formulate a plan that changes how we view the land. Conclusion. Security environment is wicked. And wicked requires significant attention. Guatemalan peasants will go nowhere. They have nowhere to go. We have to deal with it. And even if and when we go to the ICJ And if Belize is victorious, they will still be there. And what I've researched and what I've projected based on my studies is that they will become the possible knockstone at the hand that starts the official fight. And we must find a way to address those issues. And lastly, we can retain, and we will retain total control of all of our territory if we formulate this plan. If we use indigenous appreciation of land that looks not on the commercial value, that asks not what more can I get, what more can I exploit, but rather I need these resources to survive, and I'm going to extract what I require for my survival. And ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time.